That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years.
No, nothing really comes to mind. I was like, Ching, listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball to Sunny.
What started as another confident opinion from Sunny Hostin quickly turned into a tense on-air showdown that few people expected. As Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus pushed back against her comments, the discussion escalated faster than anyone anticipated. It was the kind of television moment where the atmosphere changed in an instant, and many viewers felt they had never seen Sunny face such intense opposition. Gutfeld fired back with sharp criticism, while Tyrus supported his points by pointing to documents and evidence. In the end, Sunny made a remark that brought the heated exchange to a sudden stop. If you thought daytime television always played it safe, this confrontation suggested otherwise, creating a level of tension that made it seem as though the View's table could barely contain the debate. Stay with us, because this story only becomes more surprising from here.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from...
Sunny Hostin appeared ready to deliver another passionate argument at the well-known table, carrying herself with confidence and speaking as though she was completely certain of her position. Everything about her presentation suggested she expected her viewpoint to settle the debate once and for all. But instead of receiving agreement, she faced strong pushback from Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus, who, speaking from a different studio, challenged her claims in a way that caught many viewers by surprise. Their response shifted the tone of the conversation almost immediately. What began as a lengthy and confident speech soon became the subject of widespread online discussion, with many people joking about how certainty had collided with unexpected opposition. It served as yet another reminder that even the boldest arguments can quickly lose momentum when they are met with determined resistance.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that.
The atmosphere on The View no longer felt the way many viewers had come to expect. As Sunny stepped into the discussion, the tension rose quickly, making the exchange feel more like a relentless verbal showdown than a routine daytime debate. Even without being in the same studio, Greg Gutfeld challenged her argument almost immediately. Armed with a viral clip, quick responses, and his trademark sarcasm, he pushed back in a way that many felt weakened the points she was trying to make. Tyrus took a different approach. He never needed to raise his voice, choosing instead to apply steady pressure, making the conversation resemble a careful examination of a weak argument. While Sunny continued directing criticism from her seat at the table, Tyrus answered with documents and evidence that made her overall narrative appear increasingly difficult to defend. For many observers, it was another example of her using her place on The View to deliver dramatic speeches, often treating everyday disagreements as though they were major national crises.
Sure, all that, and the price of butter. Sunny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, if it wasn't for her asking that question, It might have been a closer election. But when oh no, nothing really comes to mind, I was like, Ching, listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling.
She once made the bold claim that some people of color could not truly understand their own political beliefs unless those beliefs closely matched her own. The statement gave many viewers the impression that she had placed herself in the role of deciding which opinions were acceptable and which were not. Under that way of thinking, anyone who disagreed with her could easily be dismissed as uninformed, mistaken, or lacking understanding. But after speaking from a position of moral certainty for so long, that image can begin to weaken, especially when someone openly challenges it. As Gutfeld Tyrus responded from another studio with documents, evidence, and specific examples, Sunny appeared caught off guard by the intensity of the pushback, reacting as though she had not expected such a direct challenge to her arguments.
Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter. So instead, let's check out this clip from Monday's episode of The View when the ladies put their science caps on and discuss the solar eclipse.
As the pressure intensified, the overall presentation seemed to lose its momentum, making the situation appear even more unusual. Even while the discussion drifted away from the central issue, the co-hosts continued backing one another throughout the exchange. To many viewers, the panel felt more carefully staged than completely genuine, with one member responding dramatically while another appeared noticeably uneasy. Watching The View often leaves some people with the impression that agreement is encouraged while strong disagreement is quickly pushed aside. As the conversation grows more intense, the focus can shift toward emotional reactions, memorable one-liners, or side topics instead of addressing the main point. This time, however, the response stood out so clearly that many felt it was impossible to overlook.
Oh no, nothing really comes to mind. I was like, Ching, listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball the side.
The reason the exchange attracted so much attention was that Tyrus and Gutfeld stepped outside the usual style of daytime television debates. Joining the conversation from the five, they remained calm, confident, and completely composed. Instead of relying on loud reactions or dramatic confrontations, they used direct arguments and well-timed remarks that steadily challenged Sunny's position. While they kept their responses measured, Sunny appeared to react as though she was struggling to keep control of the discussion. Few moments are more striking than watching someone who had been speaking with complete confidence suddenly lose momentum, revealing uncertainty that had not been visible before. Even if Sunny returns to the table tomorrow with another passionate speech and the same familiar energy, many viewers are likely to remember this exchange. What began as another routine disagreement quickly became a memorable television moment when Gutfeld and Tyrus shifted the entire conversation with one straightforward point that seemed to catch everyone on the set by surprise.
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect the patriarchy here because it's to their benefit. Yeah. They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Yeah. Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist.
When discussions turn to American crime and law enforcement, Sunny often speaks with strong emotion and unwavering conviction. In this exchange, she launched into another passionate argument filled with forceful claims, pointed criticism, and dramatic language that portrayed policing as a major source of the country's problems. She argued that crime was being misunderstood because people were failing to listen to voices like hers. It was a familiar style for Sunny: high confidence, powerful delivery, and broad conclusions that many critics believed were not backed by enough supporting evidence. She presented her views with the certainty of someone treating popular online conversations as though they carried the same weight as established public policy. That was when Tyrus and Greg Gutfeld entered the discussion. Calm, composed, and well-prepared, they responded with statistics, factual examples, and quick-witted remarks that gradually challenged the foundation of her argument. One of Gutfeld's most direct observations immediately shifted the tone, as he pointed out that many outspoken advocates of reducing police funding often live far from the neighborhoods most affected by violent crime. He also highlighted what he described as a contradiction between promoting personal security for some while expecting working-class communities to rely on social programs instead of stronger law enforcement. As those points were raised, Sunny appeared increasingly caught off guard, and as her position became more difficult to defend, the atmosphere surrounding the discussion noticeably changed.
It's not even that. And The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back.
After that, Tyrus offered a measured analysis supported by information about violent crime in places where policies to reduce police funding had been adopted. He also pointed to what he described as an obvious contradiction. Some celebrities publicly promoted community safety initiatives while hiring off-duty police officers for their own protection. He delivered his points in a calm, steady voice, as though he were repeating a lesson he had explained many times before to people unwilling to hear it. Then Greg Gutfeld stepped in with one sharply worded observation that immediately shifted the tone of the discussion. What had seemed like a confident defense on The View quickly turned into an effort to regain control of the conversation. As Sunny attempted to recover, she moved from one talking point to another, avoiding the central issue while hoping the weaknesses in her argument would go unnoticed. The audience, however, reacted almost immediately, and the discussion quickly spread online. Tyrus then brought the exchange to a quiet close with one final remark. He never needed to raise his voice or rely on dramatic gestures. Instead, he stayed composed, presented his arguments with confidence, and left the panel working to recover the momentum of the conversation.
Of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny, she is so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
This is why the moment stood out to so many viewers. To some, the show often feels like a media echo chamber where bold opinions receive more attention than open debate, and disagreement is treated as a problem instead of an opportunity for discussion. By challenging Sunny's arguments, Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus were also questioning the broader style of commentary on the program, suggesting that it can sometimes seem disconnected from the everyday experiences of the people it claims to represent. What happened with Sunny became more than just an uncomfortable television exchange. For many observers, it served as a reminder that confidence and passionate statements can only carry an argument so far before they are tested by opposing facts and evidence. Looking back, the sequence of events appeared clear to many viewers. Sunny opened the discussion with confidence, Gutfeld gradually challenged her position with facts and pointed observations, and Tyrus followed with even more direct arguments that increased the pressure. As the conversation became more difficult to control, Sunny tried to regain momentum while the focus of the debate continued to shift. By the conclusion of the exchange, many felt the discussion had broken through the familiar pattern of the show, and viewers were quick to recognize the change.